Part 1.
Dr. Ramsdale, you've come here today to tell our listeners about the importance of living a healthy life. Why do you feel so strongly about this?
Well, it worries me a great deal that even though we're richer and better educated than previous generations, we don't enjoy such good health as our parents and grandparents. Every day, my surgery is full of patients suffering from illnesses which could have been prevented.
What exactly do you mean by this?
Many people have developed diseases as a result of the way they live. If they had eaten more sensibly, these could have been prevented.
Can you give some examples?
Of course. If you eat food with a lot of fat, say fried steak or rich creamy sauces, you'll develop heart disease. Now, you don't have to eat fried food. You can grill meat instead and substitute yogurt for the cream. If you did, you'd find your blood pressure would go down almost immediately and you'd have more energy.
In the news these days, there's a lot of publicity about teenagers becoming obese.
Yes, it's incredible to see the difference from only 20 years ago. Now teenagers eat so much junk food and prefer sugary drinks with so many calories that they are becoming fatter. They don't eat regular meals. They are always snacking on crisps or chocolate. Schools should be doing more to advise them on a healthy way of living. Why not have special cookery classes for girls and boys and also teach them about nutrition?
But don't growing kids need to eat a lot?
Eat a lot of the right kind of food. Otherwise, kids will grow in the wrong way. But you know, it's not just the diet that's the problem, but also the lack of exercise. When I was young, we walked to school and played outside all day in the summer. Now, kids are couch potatoes, watching TV from morning to night or playing mindless computer games.
But life was much safer then. I wouldn't want my children playing in the streets with the terrible traffic we have, and I'd want to know where they are, keep an eye on them.
True, but by overprotecting and pampering our children, we are making them less independent and less able to cope with life. We give them everything they want, but we don't prepare them for real life. If only we could get schools to organize more games lessons or after-school activity clubs, the kids would be much fitter. I do feel let down by schools these days. They have the priorities wrong.
Earlier you mentioned people were more stressed these days. Why is that?
There's so much pressure to succeed in life, both in careers and having possessions like expensive cars. There's a lot of competition between people, and this results in stress or depression. What you can do is perhaps get some counseling, but again, if you eat well and take regular exercise, you will feel fitter and able to cope with difficulties more logically. All too often, doctors prescribe pills as a solution. But I truly believe in looking at your lifestyle first and altering your routine before resorting to medicines.
So, I gather your approach to curing illnesses is to analyze your current way of life and try to substitute a healthier diet and exercise routine.
Exactly that. Some people say that they can't afford to follow a healthy diet. But if you buy your fruit and vegetables from a market, you'll find you are saving money. And you don't have to go to a gym or join a fancy tennis club. Walk to work, or buy a bicycle, or join a weekend hiking club. Not only will you get fitter and lose weight, but you'll make new friends. Don't look for excuses not to change your attitude to health. And the healthier people become, the fewer patients I'll have to see in my surgery. Then I'll be able to concentrate on those who are really unwell.
Dr. Ramsdale, thank you for your advice. I'm sure our listeners will be inspired to throw away their frying pan and start to live more healthily from now on.
Part 2.
You don't have to go far back to find a time when the most widely used packaging for food was a brown paper bag. In fact, I remember as a boy some 40 years ago when everything from bacon to biscuits to butter was measured out and then wrapped just well enough to get it home. Since then, we've seen the development of plastics and other materials for packaging our food. We're told this makes the food better and keeps it fresher. Now, with me in the studio today is Maggie Forbes, who is Head of Packaging and Presentation for the supermarket chain Wastons. Welcome, Maggie. Can you tell us, does the new packaging really help us, or does it create problems for us?
Well, Gordon, it's very easy to see the benefits of modern food packaging. In countries which don't have modern packaging and transport systems, between 30% and 50% of all food deteriorates before it can be eaten. It was probably the same when you were a boy. Nowadays, in Britain and across Europe, only 2 to 3% of food is thrown away. It saves a lot of money.
That may be so, but do we need so much of today's modern packaging? With freezers at home, surely we only need the brown bags to carry food home. Most of the plastics we see today are just thrown away and, far from being a saving, it seems a huge waste.
I think you're being unfair there. Brown paper bags do very little to keep food fresh, clean, or wholesome. They don't stop food drying out, and they can actually encourage the bacteria which make food go bad quickly. And if you want to chill food successfully in your freezer, you need a plastic which doesn't let water vapor through. Without a wrapping like that, food loses most of its water content in the freezer and is unedible.
Okay, so they may be useful in the freezer, but what about products like milk, which aren't frozen? Surely glass or even stone bottles were just as effective and could be used again.
Yes, they were certainly effective, but also very heavy. I assure you, you wouldn't want to carry all of your food home in glass jars. Glass and stone jars are also easy to break, as you will probably remember from your boyhood. The benefit of plastic is that it's light and long-lasting. It also keeps in smells. You wouldn't want your milk smelling of fish, would you? And lastly, it keeps out bacteria. If we seal fresh food in good condition in plastic, then it's certain to be free from contamination when you get it home. You probably won't remember, but in your boyhood, food poisoning was much more common than it is today.
But plastic takes so long to break down in the ground. Plastic bags take over 100 years. This is so bad for the environment. I believe that until we use less packaging, the future of our world looks grim. But now we've run out of time, so perhaps you could come again, Maggie, and we'll continue this fascinating discussion.
Part 3.
Hey, Tina, what's up with you? You look like you've been to a funeral.
Oh, nothing really. I guess I've just had a bad week, and then only one of my numbers came up last night.
You still doing that stupid old lottery? It's enough to make anyone depressed. I haven't got a good word to say about it myself. All the fuss they make on that silly programme on Saturday night.
But everyone's doing it. The paper says it's the biggest lottery in the world. Over 20 million people entered last week, which is a lot if you consider that it's only open to people over 18.
Well, that's a good thing. Otherwise, all the kids would be spending all their pocket money on it. How much are you spending on it these days?
Well, this week I spent £10.
£10? No wonder you're fed up, Tina.
I got 5 entries, and the other £5 went on scratch cards.
And you've been doing this every week since it started?
No, this week was special. I just thought I was going to be lucky, but I've had at least 1 entry a week. It seems silly not to.
But you've lost all that money. And it's all gone to Camelot.
They don't keep the money. They give it all to charity and the arts.
They don't give it all away. They keep a lot of the money, and then they get rich while you get poor.
But I might win. Then we'd be millionaires.
When are you going to realise you're not going to win? Not with 20 million other people playing. Look how many people do you know who have won anything?
Well, oh yes. The man at the paper shop said that there's another customer who has won £100, and I believe him.
Well, that's useless. You've probably spent more than £100 already.
I suppose you've never even played once?
No. Oh, well, just the once. The lads and I at work did have a go when it started.
You mean you were a syndicate?
Oh, yes, that's the new word for it now. Anyway, after that first week, I just decided I wasn't going to waste any more of my precious money on it. Besides, I don't think it's right. Somebody getting all that money, 20 million or more, for doing nothing. My dad always says, God help those who help themselves.
But that's not going to help me win next week's jackpot.
Don't do it, Tina.
But I want the money.
And so do we all. But if I needed extra cash, I'd go and do the overtime, earn the money in an honest way. You could get a better job instead of going down to the lottery shop.
Well, I was thinking of giving it a miss that week. Anyway, maybe that's what I'll do. An extra £10 would come in handy.
Yeah, treat yourself to something nice. You need a bit of cheering up.
I know. We could go on a day trip to Boulogne. Stock up on duty-frees on the way back. I fancy something a bit cultural, especially with Christmas just around the corner.
Part 4.
If I asked you what the difference is between animals and human beings, you might think for a bit and then suggest something about the fact that humans can speak to each other using a language, or in some cases more than one language. And in a way you would be right. But that is not the whole story by any means. Many animals can communicate in surprisingly complicated ways, but they never quite achieve the range and depth of human languages. At the simplest level, several kinds of insect, including bees, have been observed performing a special dance to tell each other where they can find nectar and pollen, which is their food. This, of course, does not mean that they are using a language. But they are, all the same, communicating something. Many people think that certain birds, like parrots, can speak. But this is in fact not true. Such animals are only capable of copying the sounds of human speech, but have no understanding of these sounds, and generally use them at the wrong time. There is also no apparent logic in the way they select what to copy either. On the other hand, monkeys, apes, and other primates are capable of communicating a small number of basic ideas using a range of simple sounds that are recognized by other members of their social group. Unfortunately, though, none of the groups of monkeys observed so far have developed any form of grammar, and so we cannot call this a language. However, some apes, chimpanzees in particular, can be trained to understand and respond to certain spoken commands by humans, but so far none have attempted to copy our speech. Now, there is one kind of animal that does just this, although not many people can understand what they are saying. Dolphins have different shaped mouths to humans, and as a result they are unable to make all the sounds that we can make. They can manage the vowel sounds A, E, I, O, U, and so on, but lack the necessary voice equipment to reproduce our consonants. Thus, a simple phrase like, "Hello, how are you?" becomes E-O-R-U. But what makes these noises more amazing is that dolphins do show an awareness of when to use such phrases, and in this sense are actually trying to communicate with humans. But by far the most remarkable form of animal communication are the songs of whales. These are fast clicking and squeaking noises that whales make underwater, and the sounds themselves actually contain more information than human speech. Scientists have noticed that some whales repeat certain long phrases of sounds, and this is in fact why they are called songs. Of particular interest is a species called the bottle-nosed whale, whose songs have many of the characteristics of human speech. But at the end of the day, we are the only species that have developed proper grammatical languages, and most experts now agree that this is because of the large communities that we live in, where a child growing up can hear hundreds of different examples of his or her language being spoken every day. If for any reason a young child does not get enough contact with other people between the ages of 1 and 4, he or she may never fully develop the power of speech. One can imagine that if whales or dolphins did start living in large communities, then, well,